The next item of business for us this morning is the report on the social principles revision. The chair recognizes the following individuals to give their report: John Hill, Dr. Randall Miller, Dr. Mary Elizabeth, and Reverend Ande, Emmanuel. Mary Elizabeth Moore. Sorry.
Thank you, Bishop. Good morning, church. My name is John Hill. I am a white layman from the Baltimore-Washington Conference, and I have the honor of serving as the Interim General Secretary with the Board of Church and Society. What began as a petition from the European Central Conferences in 2012 has set up an amazing journey to revise our social principles so that our statements on urgent matters of peace and justice and the integrity of God's good creation are clearer, are more concise, are more deeply theological, and reflect and speak to the realities across our worldwide denomination. We are so excited that you as delegates will now have the chance to consider these revised social principles. This 12-year journey would not have been possible without the people you see on the stage and countless others, including the Reverend Neil Christie and the Reverend Dr. Susan Henry Crow, who devoted so much of their time and their energy, prayers, and faithful work throughout this process. In the short time we have this morning, you will hear from a few of the leaders whose vision and faithfulness have carried this project forward, including Dr. Mary Elizabeth Moore, who served as chair of our editorial revision team, Dr. Randall Miller, our Church and Society vice president and chair of our Social Principles Revision Task Force, and Reverend Ande Emmanuel from our editorial revision team. Dr. Moore?
Thank you, and you are the people who hold this in your hands. I'm Mary Elizabeth Moore, deacon, white woman, California Pacific Annual Conference. Our social principles reveal the depth and power of United Methodist commitment to social witness as a centerpiece for our Christian living, both individually and as a church. They reveal our passion to be faithful to the gospel of Jesus Christ and to build compassion, justice, and peace in God's creation and in all relationships within that creation: ecological, economic, social, and political. The social principles are part of our long legacy of social witness as Methodists. Consider first the biblical witness. Jesus himself declared a social principle when a lawyer asked him, "What is the greatest commandment?" Jesus' response, based in Hebrew scriptures, was to love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. With these words, Jesus was offering a principle, pronouncing a principle to guide individual and community life. Such teachings have guided the Christian church and our ministries ever since, our ministries of healing, mercy, and justice. The Methodist movement has continued this bold social witness. Consider John Wesley's concerns for all people. In his writing and daily work, Wesley responded to the needs of the people of his time for education, health security for workers, and prison reform, to name just a few. Continuing this legacy, we have been living out of social principles since the groundbreaking adoption in 1908 of the Social Creed of the Methodist Episcopal Church North. This creed gave a lot of attention to equal rights and complete justice for all persons in all stations of life. Soon, other Christians in Methodist tradition and beyond adopted similar statements, and peoples in the Philippines Africa, Eurasia, and the United States lived out social principles, social witness in their daily lives. Our 1968 United Conference both established the United Methodist Church and a study commission that developed the first social principles, which were adopted by the 1972 General Conference. While each succeeding General Conference has considered amendments, adopted amendments to the social principles, their core United States context with language that was based in language that often strained to apply across the diverse context of our increasingly global church.
Thank you, Mary Elizabeth. Randall Miller, layperson from California, Nevada Annual Conference, living on unceded Ohlone lands, African American, male, and joyfully inching towards the golden girls stage of life. As Church and Society reported to the 2016 General Conference, the first phase of our process, in partnership with the Connectional Table, was centered on listening to all parts of the church, gathering United Methodist in listening sessions in Europe, Africa, the Philippines, and the United States, to hear the amazing ways the social principles have empowered United Methodist communities to bear witness to the transforming gospel of Christ in their communities, and to reflect on how these vital statements on peace, justice, and the integrity of God's creation might better reflect the realities of our experience. In keeping with our charge from the 2012 General Conference, Church and Society then developed a process to revise our social principles, the first wholesale revision of the social principles since 1972, and an opportunity to begin with a fresh page, informed by our Wesleyan theology and our long legacy of social witness, but with statements crafted by multiple writing teams reflective of our worldwide connection. These writing teams included theologians and practitioners, young voices, and those of us with a little more experience. Like quilting circles that develop wonderfully colored squares of a quilt, each writing team put hours and hours and hours of prayerful thought and effort into their particular piece of the revised social principles. And it was then the responsibility of the editorial team to stitch together all of these different pieces into a first draft. This first draft then was made available in the 4 official languages of the General Conference, and the editorial team actively began soliciting feedback both online and through convenings all across the connection. Thousands of United Methodists shared their thoughts and comments, whether from an individual prayerfully studying the first draft of the social principles in their home, or the reflections of small groups assembled, for example, at the Global Young People's Convocation. Church and Society received and reviewed thousands upon thousands of online and in-person comments. And as my friend Ande will share, carefully synthesizing these reflections, feedback, and suggestions was the heart of the work of the editorial revision team. This church-wide conversation was a gift to all of us who participated in the process of revising the social principles, and a gift to our beloved church. In the 4 years that have passed since we completed the draft of the social principles, I've taken to calling our final document a love letter from United Methodists to other United Methodists, a love letter to our church, a love letter from the many, many people throughout the United Methodist Church to encourage all of us, to inspire us, and to conspire with us to being the beautiful, beloved community of God.
Good morning, General Conference. My name is Reverend Ande Emmanuel. I am a clergy delegate from the Southern Conference of the Nigerian Episcopal area. As Randall has shared, synthesizing comment and feedback from thousands of United Methodist Church was the task of the editorial team with support of church and society staff. What we have heard in the feedback were call for clarity, to eliminate redundancy across sections, to integrate a broader range of biblical references, and to include not just statements naming challenges facing communities, but also to be clear on action we are called to live as disciples of Jesus Christ. In the end, the revision includes a preface and preamble and 4 rather than 6 current sections. You will see across the document a clearer Wesleyan biblical language, succinct statements, and a call to action, and a language that is meant to empower mission and ministry across diverse contexts where United Methodists live and worship. We understand that all of us might not agree on every statement, every word that is in the revision, but our goal was to find language that could bridge across our diverse contexts, recognizing that the social principles have always been intended to encourage conversation and a prayerful dialogue of faith and action. As noted in the preamble, we must, as a church, seek together to discern God's will and to embrace with courage, trust, and hope those controversies that arise among us. Accept them as evidence that God is not yet finished in sculpting us to God's people. As we gathered at this general conference to hear how God is calling us to our next expression of united Methodism, may this revised social principle provide a framework and a vision for our future together. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Emmanuel. And now it is your turn, General Conference delegates, to prayerfully consider these revised social principles. It's our fervent prayer that you will see in them the voices and experiences and hopes of so many who have contributed along this amazing 12-year journey, and that you would affirm them as a powerful expression of social witness for our whole church as we begin this next chapter of our beloved United Methodist Church. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Will you thank these members, John, Randall, Mary Elizabeth, and Ande? We thank you for your work. So just for clarity, these proposed revisions will be part of the work of our legislative committees this week. So this was an overview report for you and your consideration.